Thanks very much, Jay, for having us here today. Good to see everyone. We'll walk you through the Power Metallic story. Not going to tell you anything we don't believe is true, but do your own due diligence. The key takeaway on this slide, I think, is in the bottom right corner. It's fairly untypical, I would say, in Canada to have half a dozen shareholders own 50% of the company. And generally speaking, these shareholders have been the major force in the financings over the last 2 years. So we feel really good about that. And I think as investors, that's something to look at, is if management and the key shareholders are continuing to reinvest money, then you know that's a very good sign. We'll walk you through half a dozen points here on the topic. The big one, of course, is the discovery, right? So as legend would have it, we bought an existing nickel asset, nickel sulfide, nice 3.1 million tons, 1.5%. And then we drilled it up, posted an MRE of around 7.1, and it's probably maybe 8.5 million tons there. We were down to the last 200 meters in a drill budget about 18 months ago, and at that point it was pretty much myself and my friends that were financing the company. And so the drill team said, "Hey, Terry, the average drill hole was 400 meters. They said, do you want to do the 400-meter hole and write a check?" And I said, "Well, look, we're going to have to finance it, so I'd rather write the check and the financing." So I said, "What do we have for 200 meters?" And they said, "Well, we've got this target up in the northeast that we like. We want to drill at some point. 200 meters would be great for there." I'm saying, "Well, let's drill that one." And that became the line zone. So it's funny how things work out in mining. So we obviously were looking for more nickel up there, and bang, we found the mother lode. So there's the line zone today, about 550 meters by about 600 meters deep, and it's still open east, west, and south. There's an average 5 holes there, 20 meters of almost 8%. I mean, I've joked sometimes with some of these holes we've had that we put out a hole of 32 meters of 7% copper. It was at 110 meters of depth. And didn't do anything to the stock price when we put it out. I think we should have put it out as 140 meters of 2%. And then the thing would have rocketed. It makes no sense. It's better to have high grade. But I think it's, people just can't believe these grades, but they're true. And it's just the beginning. And that's what's exciting about Power Metallic, is that as good as we've done so far, really just scratched the surface. We've got at this point about 6 open faces, i.e. one of the interesting things about this type of exploration is that technology can really be helpful. Gold is obviously, there's great scientists and geologists in gold, but gold is so tricky. It's a very tough thing, especially on the veiny side to follow. A lot of art and brute force is required. With sulfide systems like this, there's a technique called borehole EM, and it's basically you put a tool down your drill hole, and it does a flash, and it basically identifies, depending on the thickness of the rock, somewhere between 75 meters to 200 meters out if there's a sulfide a plate, and so we've been able to do that, and that's what's been super helpful for us in our in our drilling. So when we do a hole, we then follow it up with a borehole EM, and then we see what's in front of us, and then if it's a flash and we see the plate, then we keep on drilling, and that's led to our ongoing drilling success. And so we've had no false positives, which is very unusual. So knock on wood on that. Knock on wood. And we hope to continue with that pace. We've got a number of holes coming out in the next little while. We'll probably have 7 holes that will report from our fall campaign. We've given the market some snapshot that there should be some positive news there. In particular, we're really excited about what we're going to call the Tiger Zone to the west. So it was done, you can see there was 2 small yellow holes in front of it. We drilled an airborne EM target, put the borehole EM down, and said, no, it's got to go further to the left. Second hole got a little closer. You can see on the top, got some of the chalcopyrite they were liking to see. Still wasn't the prize, so it said one more over, and then we hit the prize on hole 94. So we're excited to get those assays out probably in about 2 weeks. So something to look forward to. But 700 meters away, big step out. The interesting thing with these systems is that basically you have an underbelly of nickel sulfide, And then, if you almost like at the palm of your hand, if you think of the fingers, each finger is a polymetallic chute. And the secret is to find these chutes because they're super high grade, and you drill those down. That's $500+ rock, and you're drilling down to hopefully underneath there'll be this nickel sulfide beast. It could be a continuation of NISC Main, where we have the existing 8 million tons, or it could be an entirely new nickel sulfide that we've yet to discover if it's still there. So that's what's exciting. People often ask, did we miss power nickel or power metallic? And obviously you missed the first run, but I think people forget, how world-class studies, world-class mines, how far you'll go. And 30, 50, 100 baggers are not uncommon. They have happened. They will happen again. I believe they'll happen for power metallic. We just raised $40 million, or actually $50 million. And how we did it was basically these two slides that we're going to show you. We basically showed the investors, who are the most sophisticated mining investors on the planet, that we're very cheap, relatively speaking. We look at our comparable sort of polymetallic companies and just see what they're trading at. And when you look at the math, we're very cheap. I mean, 4N, which is a great company, traded about $1.6 billion or so, 26 million tons, 2.5%. I think metal in the ground, we could be there by the end of April. So we're 350 million or so. So a long ways for us to go, and I think that's what convinced people to that there's at least an easy double or triple in power metallic based on what we've already found. And let's not even talk about what we might find. So that's why we were able to raise the money, and obviously we had some legends join us for a second and third time, Robert Friedland and Rob McEwen. So those guys have been super helpful, obviously with checkbooks, but also just to talk to and get advice on how to go forward with this type of situation. Where we're at in the world, we're in Quebec, arguably the best jurisdiction for critical mineral projects. 3 big reasons. Infrastructure is amazing. We drive off the road right to the site. There's a Hydro-Quebec substation just across the street. We're 8 kilometers outside of the town of Namaska. Regional airport there, accommodations for our guys. So you don't have to build that infrastructure, it's already there. The James Bay Cree, our First Nations partner, they've been unbelievable, fantastic people. Quebec government's done a great job working with the James Bay Cree and with the First Nations overall. And then, of course, the financing we did, I think the stock price, the moving average was around $1.50. We did the pricing at $2.83 on 80% of it, and then $1.45 on the 20%. So you were able to get 1.95 times the price. So that's what you can do in Quebec on the exploration. You can do that also on development. So basically, if this project costs $400 million to build, 200 of that would come from the government as a grant. You don't get anywhere without great scientists, and we've been blessed. So Steve Beresford is sort of our polymetallic guru, arguably maybe the best one on the planet. He's certainly in that conversation. He was chief geo at First Quantum, MMG, and IGO. Trained at Western Mining. Joe Campbell, our VP of X, also trained at Western Mining. So those guys fit together very well, and Adam executes it on the ground. So that we've been blessed with having those guys as our team. Metallurgy is always a concern, and polymetallics, not a concern for us. I mean, obviously it's something we have to validate, but high grades are what save you. So this system, while it's not deposit similar to Sudbury, style-wise, it's very similar to the Sudbury footwall deposits of copper and PGEs. So those were high grade and very good recovery. So we're expecting plus 80% recoveries, and we'll have news out on that in Q2 and Q3. This is a big slide because it speaks to the asymmetric upside in power metallic. And generally speaking, these are all the orthomagmatic deposits in the history of time. You'll see some big ones there: Voisey's Bay, Oktябrьский, which is in the middle, is Norilsk, the world's greatest mine, Sakatti. So, for every 1 ton of copper sulfide you find in these 25 orthomagmatic deposits, you'll find an average of 5 tons of nickel sulfide. Ranges between 2 to 7. Right now, we're at 1 to 1 at NISC, soon to be 1.5 to 1 copper to nickel. So what does that mean? Well, in addition to finding a lot more copper, I expect we're going to find a lot more nickel underneath this thing. So this is going to make it a real giant. Generally, that's the core of the presentation. The rest of it is all good stuff, but the nuts and bolts is we got a monster on our hands, and you should look at it. Thank you very much.